It can be really challenging to capture your audience in a quick social media post in just 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. And it's really hard whenever we put so much work and effort into our books and our art and our products to try to narrow it down to capturing people's attention with the short attention spans that we have on social media. So I gave my community a challenge and I asked them, imagine you have 10 seconds to convince someone to buy your product. What would you say in that 10 seconds? It's a challenging but really good exercise to try for yourself. So in this video, I'm going to share what my community submitted and give them feedback that you can also take away and apply to your own products as well. First, I want to explain a couple different ways you can use this 10-second description of your work. Number one, there's kind of a trend going around right now on social media that is exactly this. Convincing you to buy my book in 10 seconds, convincing you to purchase my art in 10 seconds, whatever it might be. So this could be a really fun reel idea or TikTok idea if you want to try it for yourself, where you either say it on screen and maybe show off your product, or you do like a time lapse of you creating it and have this 10-second description on screen, or you can showcase imagery or videos that fit the aesthetic of your book or your product and put it together into a quick video. A lot of my members said this is so hard, 10 seconds is not a lot of time, and that's why I wanted to give this challenge, because on social media, we don't have very much time to capture people's attention and make them know right away that this is the art for them, this is the book for them. And so I'm glad to see so many of my club members in the Creative Content Club were up for the challenge and submitted their 10-second description. So I'm going to read them for you, feature my amazing members' books, and also give some feedback that you can take away for your own descriptions and social media hooks. My membership is for creatives, so we have a lot of authors, we have artists, we have makers and product sellers, but everyone that submitted was an author. So this is going to be a nice mix of fiction and nonfiction as well. All right, the very first one is from Latasca, who is a realtor and has a book for new home buyers. Home Sweet New Home is your guide to navigating the new construction process, offering expert insights on designing your dream home, understanding builder costs, and securing the best financing. Empower yourself with knowledge and make informed decisions to protect your investment and create the perfect living space. So I think this one is really good. I would say it's a little bit long for that initial quick hook that we need on social media to grab attention, but I think this is a really good description that includes a lot of the features of the book. The one thing that I would say it's missing is that it's focusing more on the features of the book and what people are going to learn, but less about the impact. And so whenever we think about talking to our audience, we really have to think that our audience is selfish. I don't know how else to put it. We all are selfish as consumers and want to know what's in it for us. And so with this, yes, it will help them design their dream home, understand builder costs, secure the best financing. But what does that mean for them? Securing the best financing means saving money, right? Or not wasting money on the wrong home or ending up in a bad financial situation. Understanding builder costs, again, means actually being able to save money and really budget it and make sure that you're staying in line with what you had expected. Designing your dream home. You can dig a little bit deeper in that maybe. So just adding a little bit more of that so what it really means to your audience, which is having the most beautiful home that they always dreamed of that they can design themselves, right? Because it's a construction process. So I think just putting in a little bit more of that impact that the book will actually have on their lifestyle will make this go even further. All right, the next one is Christina Vorkos. Are you impacted by cancer or dealing with mental health challenges? Find your healing journey through Christina Vorkos's poetry book, Dive Within. This Greek Latina indie poet wouldn't have survived her fight against lymphoma and published this book without remembering former college professors' wisdom during this process. Poetry is therapeutic. I really like the start of this one, Christina. I would say the ending for me drifts away from the focus on your book onto this former college professor that I'm not entirely sure like the connection. I understand that your book is poetry and agree that poetry is therapeutic, but I'd like to see this focus more on your book and less on other people's quotes and what we're going to find inside your book and the impact it's going to have on me. I would also say with the two being quite different, obviously like dealing with cancer and mental health challenges would go hand in hand, but not everyone has both who's going to be reading this. And so I could even see this being separate, that you do some posts on people who were impacted with cancer or physical ailments, and then one on like mental health challenges as well. Or even simplifying this to, are you dealing with mental health challenges? And then lead with the fact that this author was inspired to write this book based on her own fight against lymphoma, which then brings in that cancer piece into it. So that's how I would maybe reorganize that a little bit. And then just that ending, I would much rather see an impact on the actual book itself and what I'm going to take away from reading this book versus an anecdote about a former professor. So just streamlining that a little bit. Okay, next is Brittany, whose book is called A Mother's Premonition. A Mother's Premonition is a domestic thriller that follows Addie Elrod, who, within 12 hours of moving to Glendale with her husband Joe, has a grave premonition of her unborn daughter being snatched from her crib through a shattered window. Surrounded by skepticism and questions about her own sanity, she's forced to uncover the dark secrets of her new community and its citizens alone, or risk her daughter vanishing forever. Very enticing. I do love a thriller, so maybe I'm a little biased here. I really like this one a lot. I would say when it comes to social media, something that I think is helpful is not necessarily giving us the names of characters who we aren't going to recognize right away. Like if I'm a new person to this book, I, might not resonate with the name Addie Elrod, but I would resonate with maybe a description of her, like that follows what her career is, or maybe an adjective to describe the character. So obviously she's a wife in this case, but if there's like one little word or phrase, detail, description that you could give me. So just for example, that follows a paranoid wife, or a lawyer wife who blah, blah, blah. Like just give me a little bit more about actually who the character is versus her name. That doesn't really tell me much about the character. And I might connect with that on a deeper level than what her name is. Okay. I really like the visual of like the unborn daughter being snatched from her crib through a shattered window. That one definitely would connect with thriller readers and what they're looking for. And then it leaves me on a cliffhanger of she's forced to uncover the dark secrets of her new community or risk her daughter vanishing forever. So I think that's a really good cliffhanger to leave people off on. So anytime that we can make our readers want more, make them want to turn the page immediately and leave them on that cliffhanger, amazing. Well done. All right, next is Anne with a poetry and journaling book. Transform your emotions into healing with expressions, an inspirational journey through poetry, art, and journaling. This unique collection combines powerful poems with interactive art and journaling prompts, guiding you through a transformative journey of self-expression, mindfulness, and emotional growth. Nice. So I really like that this clearly kind of states what's inside. So powerful poems, interactive art, journaling prompts, and the transformation of self-expression, mindfulness, and emotional growth. Something that I would consider adding to this is whenever we are, posting on social media, writing this quick hook, we only have a couple seconds to grab the attention of our correct audience, the audience that we really want to reach with this. And so transform your emotions into healing is a little bit vague for me. I would love to see a little bit more specificity around who your target audience is and who this particular book is for, because mindfulness and emotional growth is vague. And then what is the transformative journey? So it's a transformative journey of self-expression, mindfulness, and emotional growth. But what does that mean for the reader? What will they walk away from this book having journaled about or having realized about themselves? I think that's the one little thing that's missing from this description. All right, Dulcie is next. Breathe With Me is my first book for kids that helps them identify their emotions, handle their big feelings, and learn to take care of those feelings through my 20 breathing techniques and journal prompts. I've been using these techniques in a school setting for years, and I just want to help more kids than I could reach in my classroom. So I like the personal touch to this, and I think there's absolutely a place on social media for both descriptions that don't include the author and then ones that are kind of in first person like this, where it makes sense. So in this case, the author has many years of experience working with kids, which is something that parents would want to know whenever they're looking for a book to help their kids with their emotions. And the other thing I would say is just leading with maybe the challenges or the struggles that the kids have that would lead the parent to wanting to find this book, because we want to speak to parents right away in this case, or teachers or guardians. So maybe you lead with something like if your child is struggling to handle their big feelings or experiencing more tantrums, whatever it might be for this particular age group of this book, leading with that would call attention to the target audience for this book. And then I like that you've included these techniques have been used for years. I would say I just want to help more kids that I could reach in my classroom. While that's amazing, and I agree with that, and that could be its own post too of why you decided to write a book. For this particular setting where we're just trying to convince someone to read it, that's more I-focused and less focused on the reader and the impact that this book is going to have on children. So I would definitely leave it on something that talks about the audience, the child that's going to be positively benefited from this book versus I just want to help more kids. Other than that, I think it sounds really great. And I love that you've incorporated both what's inside and also some experience, because whenever it's relevant, especially for children's books or nonfiction books, when it makes sense to incorporate the background of the author, that can go a long way. All right, next up is Heather. Boards and Betrayal is all about messy second chances and unresolved emotions. Allie thought she left her past behind, but when Tom shows up with his own regrets, their tension and heartbreak will pull you right in, especially when he discovers a secret she's been keeping from him. I like this. I like that you've included some different themes that readers of your genre might find really enticing: messy second chances, unresolved emotions. Similar comment that I gave earlier about the names, I would love some descriptors about Allie and about Tom. So like, is Allie a wife? Is Tom her husband? Like, what's the connection between the two so that I can really visualize the plot a little bit more and the characters that I'm about to get into. So an adjective, a couple descriptors of them each would be really helpful. And then also same with the secret. So it ends with, especially when he discovers a secret she's been keeping from him. Can we add just a little bit more detail to get that big impact of this cliffhanger? So like a couple descriptor words of the secret: earth-shattering, life-altering, maybe something a little bit more specific to what this particular secret is about, and then what is the impact from that. So especially when he discovers an earth-shattering secret she's been keeping from him, that will completely change their relationship, that will completely change his blah, blah, blah. Fill in the blank for what fits for your book. Just a little bit more impact on that to really get me to need to find out what happens immediately. Okay, next is Nancy. Emerging is an impactful, relatable read that will encourage anyone trying to figure out how to take the next step after life changes inescapably. A self-help book that delivers. Ultimately, a hopeful and inspiring read. And the full title is Emerging: Stories from the Other Side of a Cancer Diagnosis, Loss, and a Pandemic. I like hearing the full title because I feel like that helps bring it all together. So thanks for including that as well. I think the life change part is really impactful and helps identify the best audience for this book. So I personally would lead with that because impactful, relatable read could be any book. Like anyone could kind of say that. So being specific about your target audience and leading with that, with people looking to figure out how to take the next step after a big life change, I think is a little bit more impactful and would speak to the reader who is going through a big life change. The other thing I would say also is just using simple language goes a really long way. And I don't think that this is complicated by any means, but I would say like the next step after life changes inescapably, you could potentially lose people there who are going through big life changes, but don't connect themselves to that phrasing, I guess. So still keeping your own writing style and what you want to say here. But if you could just say something as simple as, if you are navigating a big life change, this book will help you figure out how to take the next step and then go into the rest of it. And I think that would be a really powerful opening, especially once they read, the subtitle of it being about cancer diagnosis, loss, and a pandemic, and being able to connect themselves to that. All right. The next one is 60 is the New Assassin by Shesh, a crime thriller set in Singapore. Follow Ismail Dola as he plots murder and mayhem in a methodical manner. A retired CEO, Ishmael finds purpose as an assassin, and what's more, he gets you rooting for him. Fun. I like the plot of this. I would say that the ending doesn't get me wanting to find out what happens. Like, I don't really get the conflict from reading this one. I can tell, of course, that there's going to be some action with him finding purpose as an assassin. He's plotting murder and mayhem, but I want to know the conflict as a cliffhanger at the end of this description. So is the conflict that he gets caught, or is the conflict that he narrowly escapes death himself? Like, just a little bit more detail that really gets me wanting to read the book and find out what happens, because I get that I'm going to be rooting for him, but rooting for him to do what exactly? Or what does he encounter along the way that I need to find out what happens next? So I think this tying that in a little bit more at the end will be really helpful for you. And then you could also condense a little bit of it. So follow Ismail Dula, a retired CEO, as he plots murder and mayhem and finds purpose as an assassin. So that's just a little bit more succinct and kind of blends those two sentences together. And then again, just really focusing on that conflict for us. Next, we have Caroline for her darkly comic novel, The Marriage Vendetta. If a therapist promised they could fix your selfish husband, but only if you followed their dangerously unorthodox methods, would you do it? I love this. Succinct. So one sentence. I feel like Caroline might have won the 10-second challenge here. And I think that it's really succinct and interesting and asks a question. Now the reader's kind of thinking about if they were in that situation themselves, would they do it? And it also tells me the main characters and kind of what the main plot is going to be of following dangerously unorthodox methods. It also piques my curiosity of wanting to find out what those methods would be. So I really like this one a lot. If you want to get a little bit more specific, with the therapist piece, I was wondering, like, is this a marriage therapist? So maybe like that would change it up a little bit because the husband might know about like the marital issues already. Or is this like her personal therapist? So even like differentiating that and just being specific about that could help the reader understand a little bit more. But other than that, I think that it's really good. It's solid and I would be intrigued. And this would make a really good just one-liner for social media. And it's quick and easy to read too. So I think it's perfect. All right. Alba submitted, if you know what is being an immigrant and you need some laughs in your life, this is the perfect book for you. Short and sweet, which is great. I would say what's missing here is knowing the genre and who it's for. So it's for immigrants who need some laughs, but it doesn't really leave me knowing the plot or what I'm going to really take away from the book. So I think just being a little bit more specific there and what the transformation or learning or impact would be. And if there's a plot, like what the conflict would be, things like that to really leave us on a cliffhanger and leave us wanting to really read it. So I love the length of it. And I like the beginning of, speaking directly to who your audience would be. But it does leave me curious about what the genre is. But if I'm a reader looking for a specific genre or looking to be really pulled into an entertaining experience, it's hard for me to take away from this what that would be. So just a little bit more specific there. All right, Katie's next, who said 10 seconds isn't much time. I agree with you, but that's the fun of this exercise too. It's kind of trying to narrow it down. All That Shimmers is a historical fantasy novel about a whimsical nursemaid at a grand hotel resort during World War I in a love triangle arranged by a mysterious fairy. Cool. I like the incorporation of the genre, but also some of the descriptive words like whimsical definitely gives me fantasy vibes. We have like the setting and time period since it's a historical fantasy. And then in a love triangle arranged by a mysterious fairy, again, I'm getting the fantasy aspect of it. There's a lot of like prepositional phrases in this one. So I feel like we can combine and make it a little bit more concise so there aren't as many like during, in, by, at, kind of all in the same sentence. So you could combine the time frame, like All That Shimmers is a World War I fantasy novel about a whimsical nursemaid in a love triangle with, if you're willing to kind of reveal what that love triangle looks like, because this description does leave me wanting to know a little bit more about the love triangle and also the conflict there. So maybe ending after arranged by a mysterious fairy, leaving us on a question about who will the nursemaid choose, or what is that ultimate conflict piece that you can leave people on so that they want to go read and find out what happens. Next is Julian. So I'm going to read the pitch first and then the title after. Yes, you could spend yet another 10 years doing what you've always done and get the same results, or you could read this and do something different. And the title, which I think is really helpful to connect to the pitch, is Master English Fast, an Uncommon Guide to Speaking Extraordinary English. I really love the title. I love the subtitle too of being an uncommon guide to speaking extraordinary English, because I would kind of want to know what that means. And then my mind goes to like Master English Fast. Is this for non-English speakers who are learning to speak English, or is this for native English speakers who want to speak extraordinary English and, master the language even more? And then the pitch on its own without the title, I would, be wondering what is this all about, because it doesn't really mention language or English. So if you were using this as a pitch to hook in your audience, I would definitely want to include that it's about language, that it's about English. Clarify who it's for. Is it for native English speakers? Is it for people learning English as a second language? So those are some things that I would definitely want to incorporate into this pitch if it was on its own in a social media video or even the first line of your book description, just to tailor it a little bit more to who it's for. Next is Lloyd, who runs writing retreats called the Writing Grove. So this is a description for that retreat, which sounds amazing. Looking to kickstart a project, reignite your creativity, or recharge? Join a small group of writers from around the world for a retreat in Puglia, Italy. From a luxury stay in a 900-year-old palazzo to guest writer talks and walks along the Ionian coast, you'll leave re-energized, refreshed, and ready to tackle your work. I think this is really nicely done. I think it starts off strong of who it could be right for, and then the different benefits and features of the retreat. So I think it sounds really great. I would say that the beginning and ending feel a little bit similar. Like, are you looking to reignite your creativity or recharge? And then it ends with, you're going to leave re-energized and refreshed. So those kind of feel similar to me. And then I think I'd also be curious, especially as a writer who looks at different writing retreats and has attended some, is this for a certain group of writers who are working on manuscripts, fiction manuscripts, nonfiction manuscripts? Is this for any writer who could also be maybe writing blog posts or newsletters or things like that? So if you can get a little bit more specific there, you might work with all writers. I personally resonate more whenever a retreat is for a specific group. Like if we'd all be working on our manuscripts and the guest writer talks are all about manuscripts, that would resonate more with me than talks on a bunch of different writing related topics, some of which might not be relevant to me. So if you can get more specific there, I would love to see that. But other than that, I think it sounds awesome. The next one is Jody, whose book is Never Not Ever. In Never Not Ever, 16-year-old Tilly is struggling with the sudden arrival of the dad she's never known and her sudden feelings for the boy next door. Featuring family secrets, first love, and mental health healing, it's perfect for fans of The Summer I Turned Pretty. Okay, I really like this a lot. I think it's descriptive. It includes some tropes that people love in this genre, family secrets, first love, also mental health as a theme, and you also give a comparison to a popular comp title, The Summer I Turned Pretty. So I really like this a lot. My one piece of feedback would be to dig a little bit deeper into the conflict. So we know that the main character is going to be struggling with the arrival of the dad she's never known and then her feelings for the boy next door. But what? So the family secrets piece, maybe we can flesh that out a little bit more and leave us on a cliffhanger about that, or what the primary conflict is going to be, one of the primary conflicts. And again, just leave us really wanting to know more about what happens. So just a little bit deeper there on the cliffhanger portion. All right, next is Gershurin, whose book is called Abnormal. In my book, I share about my mental health journey and how I dealt with the challenges that depression particularly brings. Mental health matters, and my book takes a deep dive into exactly that. I am here to tell you that you have nothing to be ashamed of. Nice. I like that little line at the end. And this one obviously is like a first person, more personal pitch that you could share on social media and talk about your own personal challenges with depression and mental health and, why you decided to write this book from that. I would say getting a little bit more detailed on the genre of the book, and then also focusing a little bit more on the reader and the impact the book is going to make on the reader, because it is a little bit I-centered right now. So yes, about how I dealt with the challenges that depression particularly brings, but what about reframing to about how you can deal with the challenges of depression and, find more happiness in your life, or whatever you would like to say there that fits best with your own journey. Mental health matters, and my book takes a deep dive into exactly that. But what is the impact to the reader on that? Why does mental health matter? What is this going to do for the reader's mental health? So just focusing a little bit more on the reader's journey and the impact that your book is going to have on them. And I think you'll have a really solid pitch. This was so fun to review my community's product pitches. So thank you to everyone who submitted something. And if anything piqued your interest, definitely check them out. I will actually link all of these in the description as well so that you can check them out if you're interested. And if you are listening to this and watching this, I highly recommend experimenting with these short pitches. The nice thing about these is that you don't have to just share them once. You can share them all the time on social media and experiment with them and change them up and do some first person like some of our authors did today and do some third person like others did today and just try them and see what resonates most with people. You can even look at your watch time for your videos and see, okay, did this video have people watching longer than this one where I used a different hook? So that's how you can experiment with those. And if you'd like a challenge for today yourself, go ahead and write a 10-second pitch for your product and make a video with the hook, something like convincing you to read my book in 10 seconds or convincing you to buy my jewelry in 10 seconds, whatever it is that you create, and post it sometime this week and see how it goes. I hope this video helped you think about how you can speak to your target audience and be a little bit more specific about your products. It can be so hard to narrow down a full book, everything that we've worked so hard on, into just a sentence or two, but it's a really good challenge in being concise and being really clear and specific and enticing. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you'd like to join the Creatives Content Club, where creatives are learning about social media marketing, saving time with new monthly content plans every single month, and getting opportunities like this to get personalized feedback on your social media content, then I will link it for you in the description. It's marketingbyshelby.com/club. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.